Alright. Yeah, okay. So yeah, just once again, brief intro. Mostly looking to help with Zardy. Peacock is not your main team, but you played it just to help them. But you do want to know how to play Peacock defense a little bit more. Fair enough. So mainly be keeping those things in mind. If we have enough time afterwards, I'll get to the stuff I didn't get to last week. So we'll see how that ends up going.
Are you ready?
For over a decade.
Time to put on a show. Action!
Why are we getting stuck? Okay, we're over. Not quite. Yeah, okay. Oh, we can't necessarily afford to be moving backwards all that much. And Bomber makes it so much harder to get through all of this. I think I'm seeing some habits that should probably... well, that could change and probably give you a lot more success. Oh, get him, little George. And then this matchup is just rough. I don't know. Yeah, this is something you probably want to commit to earlier and when there's no assist on screen. You are in, though. Immediately going into blue. Drop, unfortunately, after. Not there with the routes.
Today's cartoons are so weird.
Everybody warmed up? Showtime!
Alright, patient. Moving a little bit too much backwards. Okay, so after watching the first game, like the whole goal of Peacock is to end up moving forward. That's kind of the. I mean, she's a zoner. Obviously, once you get into mid range, she still has a ton of really tools, which makes her really, really obnoxious. But layer 1 is getting through this. So, empty hopping, or just neutral hopping rather, is pretty strong. So it does exactly what you see here. It avoids all of the bombs on screen. The downside is you don't move forward. Usually you do this if you don't think you can make it past anything. And then you kind of use that time to deal with the item drop. So like you saw here. So you see all this. This is now your time to try and chicken block the item drop is usually the best way to deal with it. I don't think Squiggly Dash gets you out of it in time. It's a pretty slow dash. There's a chance, depending on when they release, you might get out. But I think its tracking is good enough that slower dashes like Squiggly won't get you anywhere. But so this, as an option, completely standard. You need to use the space you buy afterwards. Because now there's nothing on screen. The item drop's coming. If you block it, preferably if you chicken block it, so if you jump into it and intentionally block it, then land cancel the block stun. Best case scenario. Even just blocking it, it's not hit stun for that, or it's not block stun for that long. This is your time to now move forward. Which, yeah. And so, depending on the zoning pattern they give you, you can go over. This is a little sketchy, because the item drop is off cooldown, doesn't get called, or at least the wrong one gets called. But so this is kind of where you've gotten through full screen, like layer 1 Peacock. This is the goal. We got the hit. If you want the confirm here, I'm pretty sure you're close enough for SBO to catch it. Might be just out of range. And if you don't have Sing, I don't think it works, because Sing SBO brings them close enough for it to. But you bought yourself time, you're heading forward. You get caught. What are we pressing? If we're going to move forward, this is a good option if you're expecting them to not press anything. Your best options when you're going up forward aggressively are your two light buttons. They're your fastest. Jump light punch needs you to be on them, but it's a really quick button. Jump light kick is just jump light kick. It's Squiggly's best tool, especially in the air. So unfortunate trade a little bit. Another thing here, relatively important thing. Tech habits are usually something players don't end up thinking about. Try and start, like, if you're going to tech, do it intentionally and not habitually. So oftentimes the default is just to tech backwards, which is what we see here. The issue is you're against the zoner. You're just putting yourself full screen. If you tech forward here, you immediately tech into a bomb that you block, and then you're there mid-screen before the next zoning pattern even really gets set up. So if you tech forward, you're basically where these two projectiles are going to be, and you're getting rid of both of them immediately. This is almost always going to be the best case scenario, especially when the assist is off or on cooldown. You gain space, you keep yourself safe, and then you completely mess up their zoning pattern. So, and then when I say teching intentionally, this also applies, like, if you're in the corner, try to think about why you're teching, because if you just tech back into the corner, you're getting rid of NZ for putting yourself in just as bad a situation. So thinking about stuff like that, trying to think about why you're teching in specific directions. It's really easy to fall into habits. I definitely still do bad techs. Autopilot is one hell of a drug. But the more you can think about what you're doing with all of your movement, the easier a lot of things can start becoming. Like getting out of the corner, getting in on zoners, just everything. So it's a pretty big detail. Okay, we got through, got hit. We're playing with Hunger and Rush and Butchers as our assists. Okay, so here, you don't even need to double jump to actually get over the storage. I'm pretty sure neutral hop does it. A super jump neutral definitely will. So here, you can afford to just up forward, get that space. You will need to worry about the item drop, like barely coming off cooldown on your way over, but that's a lot better than sitting full screen dealing with all the incoming projectiles. Yeah. And then tried to get a charge. It's not really something that's going to happen in this matchup. Unless you've done something that gives you their respect that buys the time. Okay. Yeah. And so, Eliza is a big body. This is a really obnoxious matchup. It's really hard to air dash through much. If you're gonna do it, I'd honestly probably recommend just trying to do like air dash and relatively quickly pressing jump light punch. It's one of your smallest air hurt boxes. It'll let you keep a lot of the momentum, but it won't commit you to a line like this, where you're stuck, unable to block as well. Just running into that. And so you're not really able to threaten anything. If you want to do something cheeky full screen, there are some gaps where you can try and fit in a sewer grab, forward heavy kick. If they're not paying attention, that can catch them. Sometimes you still don't get a conversion because there's just a projectile on the way and you have to hold that. Though you might be able to boat DP, confirm if you have those. It's a bit weird. I don't remember if that actually works. But, like, That's an option. Other than that, your objective is find a way to get through the garbage. Navigate the garbage. And so, same thing applies to Squiggly. So like, just doing a neutral jump here, you didn't get over it, but you were close. It's the right idea. The item drop's coming. Same deal as Squiggly. Eliza Dash is a little faster. I can't remember if you actually get out from under item drop in this situation. If you don't want to risk it, go for the chicken block. Again, even if you don't get the chicken block, this is now your turn to move, which I think you will. Yep. And even better, like, you could just up forward here. There's nothing else for you to respect. You up forward, it sets you up in a perfect position to still have all the rest of your air mobility, so your air dash, and you're already going over this incoming Stand Heavy Punch projectile. And so then you just figure out how you're dealing with the next layer. Whether you can get yourself close enough to hit with Stand Heavy Punch before other projectiles become a threat, which probably isn't going to be necessarily feasible at this. If you want to try and boat from mid-range to get through the next layer of projectiles and then either go into Caught or go into Throne or Air Horse, or just Horse, Air Horse, to cancel out and try and keep yourself safe. All of them can get called out, especially by M-Bang. I don't remember if Caught beats M-Bang. I wouldn't be surprised if it loses, but it probably kind of depends on the order in which people are pressing buttons. But you're trying to find ways to get closer to where you can start actually being a threat with your Stand Heavy Punch, with Caught. Once you get into like the Eliza peak range, it's really scary for Peacock to be doing anything. So your kind of major goal is getting there, and so you're pressing a little bit early. You're pressing in the parts of the matchup where you're supposed to just really be focused on movement. You probably also can, if you're a little closer, do like IAD, or not necessarily IAD, but like you navigate one projectile and then you air dash and then go into Skeleton to break through another projectile and catch them going into their next Gatling before. Yeah, so like there's a lot of options you can kind of try and mix it up, but from this range, you're not going to be getting all that much done by pressing. Like this right here, that's really good. Unfortunately, the Bomber's gonna make it pretty hard for you to do much anything else off of this. Oh, you actually duck under it. No, that's really good. Hold all this. Yeah. Okay, one thing to say. You haven't been doing this much at all, which is why I haven't brought it up until now. Unless you have labbed out specific P zoning block strings, I would never recommend push blocking Peacock projectiles. Because unless you're looking for a very specific PBGC window, more often than not, you are going to put yourself in more block stun than any of the projectiles ever would by virtue of just push blocking. Because push block is a guaranteed 25 frames. Most of them, all of them, do not put you in anywhere near as much block stun. So unless you're looking for a very specific PBGC window, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And even if you accidentally get a really good window, if you're not like specifically fishing for it, you might not do what you need to do with that small amount of like the extra gap you buy yourself. So like here, you push blocked and then kind of just ended up being stuck in the same spot. So reflecting in this matchup it's like really good if you can get to do it. The issue is you never get to do it. And by reflecting, I mean specifically you're fishing for Stand Heavy Punch. Reflector itself is good. The one issue is you keep on using it while Double's on the screen. So Double is actually eating all the hits, and then you're not getting use out of the reflector. Because it's not staying to reflect projectiles, it's just getting the hits on the assist. And so, yeah. And then that's just not really a winnable state. So, let's see sort of where we're getting. game looked a little better. Oh. As tempting as this is usually a round start I'd want to heavily discourage. Just because it spends a pretty important resource, and especially versus Peacock, you're not going to get much other meter unless you actually get the hit. It's obnoxious to confirm, and it's pretty easy for them to play around. If you're really wanting to hard call out this round start, you might want to do the medium kick, heavy kick. The medium heavy kick SBO. Because I think it catches them at this height. And so if you're really expecting the jump heavy punch, air dash back, jump heavy punch round start where they just completely bail, I think that'll catch them. And it might be a little easier to convert off of. But in general, this round start, so SBO round start, usually heavily discouraged because it's so committal. And if they stay on the ground, they just reaction and bang and win. SBO has no hit stop post flash, so they can just react and trade your bar for sending you full screen and you taking damage if they choose to stay on the ground. So yeah, so you're for you, Head Boomer, this is the first time you've kind of really been under pressure because you weren't able to kind of get out of that scramble after round start easily. And one thing I've noticed when they're getting closer, it seems like your default for defense is up back jump light punch. I mean, that's a pretty good option. It's a good button. It's a big button. It stuffs a lot of approaches. It does a lot of work. You can, if this is your only option, you will start getting called out for it with either assists or like tailored responses. So I think Squiggly can probably space a jump light kick and beat you out, or time it afterwards and catch you out. Stuff like that. And so thinking about your other options, up back air throw is really strong. It can also get you punished for different things, but depending on how big your air throw is, and I forget just how big P's air throw is, it can dissuade a lot of follow-up. And if they tech, you just reset to neutral in a strong neutral situation. Outside of that, your other air buttons are also pretty good. If you have the time, jump heavy punch or jump heavy kick choke out a lot of space in two different ways. If they're staying more grounded, jump medium kick can do a lot of things, and especially if you see them trying to call an assist to catch your landing. Like empty hop up back, just not choosing an option and then reacting with either a falling button or just jump medium kick catches them out trying to run at you. You always have the option of just holding your ground and like trying to L George in their face. It can blow up on you, but more often than not it's going to trade in your favor because of how L George works. Yeah, she has a good chunk of options. But okay, so we push block. Did we want alpha counter? Alright, they're in. Yeah, Peacock can aggressively fight for space. It's usually easier if you have an item drop defending you, but if you don't have the time to set that up, okay. Oh, air throw, confirm, not bite. Out of the corner, overextend into the DP call. That's pretty good pressure by Zardy. Find the kill. Didn't quite get the charge, there we go. Alright. That's a big commitment. good tech. For Zardi, our defense seems to be somewhat reliant. I don't know if I want to say reliant on Hunger and Rush. Yeah, that doesn't work if you force them to block it. Honestly, so if they're this close, one of the things I check for, because I also play Squiggly Eliza, if you do anything into Sing, if you notice they're dealing with Daisy properly, if they're jumping, you place an SBO to make it really awkward, and you try and put it somewhere where it won't use all of the hits, so you can then DHC to... Or not DHC, raw tag to Eliza with still the SBO making the punish awkward, if not impossible. The other thing, if you know they're gonna get hit by Daisy, you Sing Daisy, and if you want the Eliza in, you don't let them fall to the ground, you keep OTG, you just immediately launch with stand heavy kick and then raw tag into Eliza. And just make sure you're picking up with 2 medium kick if you try and do, or 2 medium punch. If you try and do boat confirm, IPS will trigger. So use one of the easier ones anyway. That's kind of how I tend to try and get my Eliza in if I'm trying to cheat it in like that. Good blocks. That's awkward. Really unfortunate. Same side. Yep. Gotta figure out how to get over the gun. You're dead. No. So... It's an obnoxious matchup. Eliza's really tall. Yeah. So it's kind of like... Dash blocking might unironically be one of your best bets. You can try and do boat, but double has some really good ways to catch you out doing that. They can go for Clyde, they can go for 2 HP. They can just Fugazi knuckle you. So it's scary to commit to anything. If you try and jump a little bit later to chicken block the projectile, you also buy yourself more time to then actually jump over the next one. Overall, it's just kind of an obnoxious thing, a really obnoxious tool for the Eliza to deal with. Once you get over it, you can always threaten like IAD, jump medium kick from range. So then shooting the gun just becomes a lot scarier. But you need to find your way out from this. You can also try and go again for sewer grab. That's kind of your like, are you autopiloting too hard in zoning? Check. Also, I'd recommend learning Hunger and Rush out. I would be very surprised if you cannot get a Squiggly charge off of it. And that's also probably a lot more damage in meter than normal Squiggly routes. Well, not necessarily more damage, it's definitely probably going to be more meter. Oh. Pick up. What? Oh, we're extending into DP. I think it is fair to say, Zardi, your defense is pretty reliant on you calling a DP assist. It's a strong tool, don't get me wrong. It is a really risky thing to rely on for defense. It has its time and place, but if it is your, like, if it's the cornerstone of your defense, so to speak, it becomes really exploitable. So it's like, I noticed you, especially like down back and call your assist a lot, they can just throw you. And especially for how long Hunger and Rush takes to finish up and then recover, that's an assist that you might actually get happy birthday to after getting thrown, depending on the throws. And then there's also just a chance you end up actually getting opened up before it comes out, in which case that's also a free happy birthday. All that sort of stuff is just thinking, like, if you become predictable, and this is true for anything in this game, no matter which option you choose, it's exploitable. The issue is when you're calling an assist and relying on assist for defense, it's like you've become predictable, and then the reward for them punishing you properly is possibly outright killing one, if not both characters. So it's a very, very dangerous habit to put yourself in those situations consistently. Doing it every now and then, just checking if they're like paying attention, or doing it when you expect it to catch them off guard. Yeah, sure. Like, be as aggressive with your assist as you want. Up until the point where it becomes detrimental. And I think you're calling it too much. To the point where it's like pretty fundamental to your defense. But we got it. Tech forward. I already talked about that a little bit. Did we just TP in place? We did. That is not what we wanted. And once again, we saw Boomer, you doing up back jump light punch again. I already talked about some of your other options. Not your only one. Good night. Much better job getting through the zoning. Skeleton. Oh. Okay. What was the idea here? Yeah, we didn't really get them into a block string and then kind of just called her assist. Opened up while out backing. Oh yeah, also, other thing to keep in mind for Peacock defense, you have some relatively good spacing buttons. Like, some of her buttons are kind of stubby, but if you notice them forwarding at you, you have an egregious anti-air. 2LK is really strong. I think it's 2 medium punch is a kind of neat little check. I think your launcher stuffs approaches pretty well, and then obviously you know all the shenanigans with like sweep or sweep Kara into your specials. If you want to be really aggressive on defense. But yeah, you want to make approaching you as awkward as possible. And then the second you force them to respect you, you can then use that time to cheat out bombs, and then the bombs let you get out a lot easier than fighting for your life without them. Do we have a happy birthday route? Not quite.
For over a decade.
Let's do this in one take. Action.
Alright, so once again, we saw a push block. Not really the greatest. So the really sad thing is, like, right here, you're so close to actually getting out. If you just block that item drop, you've successfully chickened. And then you're in such a good spot to then get out of there. But now instead, it holds you in place for just a little bit longer. You gotta hold... Oh, that hit your assist even. Okay. Neutral jump. Yep, you could up forward there. And always when you're trying to deal with item drop... Oh no! Before we get to this, when you're trying to deal with item drop, unless the thing you're actively trying to do like requires a button for you to press, usually the best option is to just do a movement option and then block as soon as possible. Because at the end of the day, blocking the projectile vacuums you in, That's actually, for some reason, how the item drops work. And then I'm pretty sure you're in less block stun than you are hit stun for them. You also take less damage, which is ideal. But unfortunate, no snap. We see the funny punch move. So when you see this sort of stuff happening, I know you're kind of scared, but it's worth it to give it a shot. Especially if you don't see an item drop coming or you don't see a George on screen. That means they can't confirm off of this, even if you end up messing up and getting tagged. But here's where I just super jump forward. Super jump forward lets you close down a lot of space. And depending on how much space you're actually able to close and how comfortable you are with the Peacock super timings, you can actually get a punish. They teleport towards you and kind of just get out. Okay, back to mid screen. Yep. So like if you notice blocking that pulled you in forward, if you block that, you're kind of in a good spot to dash forward a little bit, try and get under that projectile. Especially if you get under that George, you're already gonna go under the bomber at this range, and so you're set up to be close enough to be a threat. And so they kind of need to start doing a bit more awkward zoning patterns. But instead we jump under, or jump into it. That was actually so close. That's unfortunate. No! Oh, yeah. The hits are really important versus P. That's painful. Yeah, if we tech forward there, life is a lot easier. Yeah, raw tagging versus P is never... Well, I'm not going to say never. Item drop and George out make it really scary. Those are the things that typically actually let them get confirms. But if they don't have any of that set up and it's just projectiles, most raw tags are probably going to be pretty good. Okay, and so you're asking for your options on defense other than band raw tag? Band raw tag is not a bad option. It's awkward to punish, especially in certain matchups. So it's a good tool to have in your back pocket. Especially if you notice they start getting pretty aggressive or antsy with their approaches. But you can also do double raw tag if you're feeling like a psychopath. It beats different things. It's much more high risk, low reward. I guess it's probably a better reward than bans because you get a combo off of it. But yeah, there's those options. Just a thing to be thinking about. Oh. If you air dash up medium kick here, I'm pretty sure that's a hit. Unless they do SSJ, in which case, lol Lamau. So, you can afford to stay pretty grounded in this matchup. So if you for reference, if you're at this range, a lot of bands really like to be doing symbols, a lot of bands really like to be doing giant step. That's kind of what we're seeing here. If instead of being in the air, you're on the ground and you just do caught, if you do H caught, more often than not, you're gonna catch them and kill them. Yeah, unfortunate. Good block. You have 50 skull seconds left? Yep, I agree. This will work. I like the idea of playing patient, getting to charge. But now we gotta run house. Also, obviously it's not good for DHCs, but going back to here, the most efficient way for Squiggly to spend her meter to actually get damage is getting them into Daisy herself. That is how Squiggly on her lonesome cashes out. I'd probably get used to thinking about that, and I think you might be able to kill here if you go for that. So what was the initial hit? Yeah, here you can do a ton of damage after Daisy, because Daisy also lets you get another charge. So like, for example, if you did this into Daisy, and then you got your punch charge, and then you did sweep into Dragon Bite, just about anything you do after still leads to like a high 8,000 damage combo, maybe even 9,000 probably. It gets up there really quickly. Obviously, that's getting into the nitty-gritty of routing, and depending on where you are, you may or may not want to go there. But yeah, this won't kill, unfortunately. Oh, that's a burst. Oh! Why did she leave so fast? Funnily enough, when you get to like here, you can reflector the cat heads. It won't, I think, it won't give you control of them, but it prevents them from running at you, and it buys you that time, especially because you're in already sketchy chip ranges. It's probably not a bad idea. You just nullify her meter she just spent. I'd be very, very careful about calling your assist when they're this close to death. Because if you are not able to protect them from getting hit, and that also includes counter calls, that's a range at which they eat one hit, and then the Peacock just supers that they die. This is true in general, just if you're calling a low life assist, understand you are risking that character's life.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
And so, once again, talking about this, if you're going to go for it, I'd probably say do the medium heavy kick one. But even then, that might not actually catch her here. This round start is just so strong. It barely loses to anything. So you just spend a bar to kind of hit her assist a little bit, and then she gets away. And then you're really crying in the club, because now you don't have the meter Squiggly so desperately wants. Yeah, okay. So, like, this is what I was talking about with the neutral jump and then up forward. You do it a little bit earlier, but I mean, that still works here. Yada, yada, yada. This is good. That's what you want to be saying. Think about staying on the ground a little more. If you stayed on the ground there, you would have blocked the stone heavy punch, but that bomber would have gone over you. And the bomber is the important thing to be avoiding, because that puts you in block zone for a little bit. This puts you in block zone for a long time, and sends you full screen again. Bomber is a really strong assist for Peacock. And so figuring out how to either avoid it or put it on a longer cooldown by calling your assist to hit it is really, really important. Yeah, and then here's a scenario where if you had the meter, you can sing SBO here, and I think get it. Maybe not, maybe Air Switch ruins it. But like, yeah, it's... Uh-oh. Back to full screen, but they're stuck in the corner. Yeah, this is the major issue with jumping preemptively. I understand Squiggly's ground movement is not great, but she still covers just about as much space on the ground as she does in the air. And the second you commit, like hard commit to going into the air, doing anything about this is so hard. And now she's just out of the corner. So that's another pretty good reason to be staying on the ground. It's like her most obvious dead zones are over, but she does have ways through her zoning that kind of go under things as well. And so that's an important thing to be thinking about. Yeah, the boat, get through. Unfortunately gets tagged by Bomber. There's no follow-up after this. But we're just getting chipped out. Yep, the tag. We have meter. Now is the time to be getting a reflector out. If you want to commit to it. Yep. Okay, you know you can actually get under that. Yeah. Once again, low health assist calls. But like... doing this, very good. And so, like, it's really painful, but Umbi does have some tools to get through the zoning. And so, like, that's kind of the things you're looking for as well. Yeah, and once again, the assist was coming, so I was gonna eat a lot of the hits anyway. But it went like this instead. We got the accidental wrong input. And now we're in a really bad spot. Yeah, unfortunately that's not gonna work. It really depends on... I don't know, So like super jump forward there keeps you alive the longest and gives you a threat to punish. But I don't know if you can hover above everything for long enough to fully avoid the super. I think you avoid enough to avoid getting chipped out, but yeah, that's the thing to be thinking about. After you see the beam, that is your time to actually do something. The gap in between. Did we have punch charge? I guess not, no. Yeah. I would honestly... Obviously this sucks because it's side swap, so I have all the time in the world to react to this. But, I wouldn't be afraid to hold things as Peacock. It's like... Especially with, I mean, okay, you have double red, don't you? Yeah. It's... If you're gonna choose a mash option on defense, I'd probably do M-Bang Lenny cat heads, unless Lenny really messes with cat heads, but I don't think it does. You can also do M-Bang Argus cat heads, but obviously that it doesn't set up the threat of the Lenny, so it really depends on how cat head interacts, which I cannot remember for my life. Outside of that, also just getting used to holding things. Or if you're feeling really confident, if you're feeling a little spicy, you can also just press like 2LK or jab if you think their pressure's fake. The good old just press a button, say I don't respect this mix. I'm pretty sure this... Is the setup tight? I don't remember. Probably is. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of different options on defense, and Big Band Raw Tag is... It's an alright one. When the threat is getting pulled out of the corner, it's a little bit more sketchy for reasons we just saw. Also, its reward is very, very low on hit. So it's an option, but you might have other ones you want to do more. Not getting the SSJ. Oh. I see we like using that button a lot. It's alright full screen, but it also doesn't get you any rewards on it. A lot of the places you're pressing it, I'm honestly would probably say hold your air dash a little bit more and then press jump medium kick if you need that little bit of extra range, because jump medium kick lets you immediately go into segment and then you get a full route after that. That whole shebang. And jump medium kick is also less startup. So it's a pretty solid button. Getting mashed on. That happens. Oh, I was so confused that actually hit you through it because you did the reflector one. Okay, yeah. Your MB definitely just looks like needs a little bit more game time in general. Just not super comfortable on the character, which, especially if you're more recently picking them up. Perfectly understandable. Oh. This... You are in range to SBO here. And recognizing this into SBO is a pretty important hit confirm. So that's where you kind of want to be. Yeah. Again, guard tagging to band isn't necessarily an awful option, but the more you do it, the more predictable you are. We've already talked about predictability on offense and defense both. It's sketchy, so. I don't know if we had to do that. This keeps the corner. I don't know if the bar is worth it for just the corner. Arguments can be made. What? Oh, the sneeze only hit the assist. Yeah. Now you know. Don't do part 2. Just go right into the launcher. I do like that you did immediately jump cancel it anyway. Whether it was habit or not, this is a good habit to have. Launching the assists while in block strings is really good for pressure. Hey, are we cashing out and killing, or are we just snapping in the P? We are resetting. If we have the routes, I would probably say let's try and kill. If we don't, understandable. Good patience. You know what? That works. Yeah, get yourself. There you go. Alright. Still kind of sucky. Yeah, and you can't reflector this. Because it will blow up at the end anyway. Unless your reflectors actually prevent it from getting close enough to you. Emigre doesn't. I don't know if your reflectors work differently. Something to check. If you're afraid of the bomber hitting you, I think you can call out this with the daisy punish. Otherwise, just press here. That is... I hate that. Okay. Yeah, protect backwards. There you go. So we chicken blocked it. Now's your time to super jump forward. You were in that space. Take it. Yeah, that works. Yeah, calling our assist that low. Okay, now we're doing it a little bit too much. Check forward. Oh, you weren't. Okay. Well, that was a green bounce, but I really thought you would have recovered earlier. Alright, whatever we do, do not call our umbrella. Boat. Yep. It always explodes at the end of that super. That's how it's programmed. So there's no winning there. It's just one of those haha funny hold that. Man. Oh. I don't know about that. It was pretty solid fighting for your space defense. Like, all this, it's fine. This is where you want to step too far. And then tried and true band draw attack. Especially as banned, they are mashing a lot. Start trying to bait that out if you can recognize it in real time. Especially over the course of a set. Well, that's a punish. Good side swap. What? I hate everything. Get yourself into Rav. Makes sense. Caught, dashing. Yeah. Okay. Couple more. I don't know if we'll get through all of these because I think I'm starting to run out of things to say. That's so much better. You were patient, you stayed on the ground under it. I was really clean getting through the zoning. Where did you mess up? I mean, you kind of just got caught. That wasn't necessarily bad defense, just caught up backing. For you, Zardy, I would definitely recommend, if you're trying to catch them before they hit the ground, just do jab. If you want to actually like mix them after they land, if you want to try doing low throw, actually do a low, so do 2LK. 2 light punch, a Swiggly. It's a really cute button. It doesn't do much else for the character, unfortunately. It's a very... That's like the worst place to be doing, whatever it's called. Band draw tag. Didn't get the special up beforehand, still didn't end up mattering. Final hit, got 2 charges. Yeah, just to put the bomb. Oh! Autopiloted into upbacking a little bit too much. We had punch charge, did we not? Learn some stancel combos. They're so much better for happy birthdays. when they're not all that bad. Especially if you want to just keep it really safe and stancel into light kick, 2LK. Reaches pretty far. Very, very stable for happy birthday combos. Give them a little try. Murder. And I just gotta hold all of this. Yeah. Yeah.
Today's cartoons are so weird.
Beat 'em up, guys. Showtime.
Yeah, I would definitely feel comfortable saying you're probably raw tagging to band a bit too much. So like, obviously you have just the option to block. Peacock can in fact block. And a Peacock with good defense is honestly really, really annoying to deal with. Lolito's pretty hard to open up. They also have solo ratio going for them, but just in general, it's like, it's really annoying to deal with someone who's just comfortable sitting there holding things. I do it myself. Just I know people hate it. And then once you start getting more comfortable with a couple of your options, you have like up, forward, jump, light button. If you know they're gonna do a slower thing or a thing, you'll jump over and then you'll counter hit them. So that's another way to deal with throws. If you're worried about M-Bang getting thrown too much, kind of have all those options on the spot. This is like a cheeky little something to throw in once every 3 to 5 games sort of deal. And especially don't use it if you know they're doing options that beat similar things. So like if you're doing M-Bang and then they're doing dash up throw, this will work where M-Bang. If they're just sitting there waiting to block M-Bang and punish you afterwards, this will still lose for the exact same reasons because they're just waiting to block and punish you. So try and think of it like that, where it's like it's a tool that will beat certain things. So throw it in once they start showing you they're willing to do those certain things. Raw brass. Brave. Also, I feel you on this already. I need to do it too. I would recommend trying to add just sing into some of your mix. Just be like, I think you're just gonna be like down backing and sing. And then if you're right, what do you know? That's a massive just opening. Daisy deals a good chunk of damage. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh no. The Daisy is a very sketchy reversal. It's really tempting to go for it. But as the old Get Great mentor used to say all the time, we should have it on a plaque somewhere. Daisy is not a reversal. It's a very, very strong reactive tool, but it's not something you want to be mashing predictably most of the time. It's... That's unnecessary. I'll do one more, and then
Are you ready?
whatchamacallit,
All is all mine. Let's go.
close things up for the evening. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, not focused on it. There we go. So, like here, funnily enough, right here, you're in a good spot. You want to land and hit the ground here, and then you might be able to avoid the airship George. You might also be able to neutral hop over it, but this double jump, just double jump right into it. Kind of stopped a little bit of your momentum. Yeah, cremation when they're in the air is gonna cause painful things to happen to you. So, here, I don't think you have the time to dash up throw. Here is where you Daisy. Daisy gets you the counter hit, although I don't think Daisy actually gets extra damage off counter hit for stupid reasons. But here gets you the hit that avoids the George. That is how you avoid the George here. And nothing they can do saves them. So, like, they can react with their own super. None of their supers get them airborne. None of their DHCs avoid Daisy. Anything they do there, Lenny or Argus loses. So it's like that is a gotcha. That's I'm gonna Daisy here and win. I think SBO might also work, but Daisy is the more damage one. That has no awkwardness dealing with projectiles whatsoever. Yeah, and then dealing with zoning a zombie. It's the one major downside to playing zombie. But yeah, I think I said a lot. I think I repeated myself a lot, so I will just very briefly go over the review. First and foremost, for Zardy, just think about how you're using your movement versus P. It is incredibly important. Think about where the holes are and at what time they're there, and then try and be there, and then understand that once you're there, you don't need to move for like a second or two, and then you can abuse the gap that happens after. You were doing a couple good things and getting into the right spot, and then just wanting to move forward a bit more. It's a frustrating dance. There's a reason it's called navigating the garbage or whatever else you want to call it. But understand what your character's options are, how their hitboxes work, and how they best avoid some of the projectiles. I would encourage you to think about routing and mix a little bit more, but that obviously depends on your comfort level with the game and how much time you feel like investing. I'm pretty sure if your on-hit game was a little bit better, it would facilitate you sticking on that on that peacock and just killing her a lot faster. Understanding how your team dumps meter and how much damage you actually do. And if you don't feel like investing time into that right now, fair enough. 100% up to you. I personally don't like labbing myself either, so it's like, if you're feeling it, I'd say go ahead, give it a shot. Also, especially for Umbi, because it seemed like you were least comfortable with that character. But yeah, I think there's all that. I went in finer detail throughout the VoDs. And then for you, Boomer, I think it's, again, I said a lot of the same things, just a couple things on repeat. Biggest thing is, I would not Oh, and then, yeah, talking about defense. So for you, Boomer, I would not have that be your only get me the hell out of here. I probably could afford to see a couple more M-bangs. If you're feeling really spicy and you think they're just going to go low a lot, up forward, jump light punch or jump light kick probably do a lot of work for you as Peacock. That sort of stuff. Try and keep the Peacock in more and experiment with just things that do and don't work. Also, just a George in their face or a jab. Like, she's the clown character. She gets to kind of just do things, and more often than not, kind of gets away with it. And then, yeah, so going back to defense for Zardy, the one final thing that I don't think I talked about a lot towards the end, and I don't know if it's whether I just stopped noticing it or if you stopped doing it, but thinking about when you're calling your assist, especially a DP assist, and not relying on it holistically for your defense. It's pretty risky. It can get you out of some really tough situations and bail you out, but it can also put you in an even worse one. Understanding the risk that comes with it and trying to avoid relying on it as much as you were at least at the start of the set. All that out of the way, I think that's all I have to say. And if either of y'all have other questions, again, you know the drill. Just ping me on the server, and I'll gladly either re-explain something or answer any questions I might not have answered that you would want answers to.